Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching this. It would mean a lot. But here's where we'll start. If there was ever a week in the NFL, or if there was ever a week in sports that would let you know that we are still in a pandemic, it was this week, man. Look, we are still in a pandemic, people. I know that a lot of places are fully open. I know that we've been kind of going by a whole bunch of vaccines or here and the boosters. I get that. But we are still in a pandemic. And I say all that to say, please just be careful what you're doing. Definitely, even people that have the vaccines or have the boosters, please keep your mask, be safe. And I start this show with that because sports are getting hit left and right again. It's starting to mirror what it was, early 2000 or late 2019, early 2020, with the whole pandemic and sports stopping. We remember the whole stoppage. In fact, almost every sport stopped. So you can name it, man. NHL, NBA, NFL, they're all getting hit. And let's focus on the NFL right quick because we're going into week 15 and boy, oh boy, COVID COVID has been taking it, COVID has affected sports still to this day with protocols and people getting tested and mandates and everything. But week 15 of the NFL will be highly affected by COVID. When you look at teams like Cleveland, you look at teams like Washington, you look at teams in the league, there are teams that have 20 plus people on the COVID list like Cleveland. And that's where we'll start. So Cleveland plays tonight, actually, or today. And they had, I think they're sitting at 7. Right now, they're sitting at 7-6. They play the Raiders at 4:30 p.m. This game is huge. This game is huge for a lot of reasons. Pretty much all for the Browns, but this game is huge for a lot of reasons. One, this has playoff implications. The NFC North still has to be won. Still can be won by any team outside, any team, honestly. Now, the Ravens, they are the number one team in the NFC North, but the AFC North, but it's pretty close. And you playing the Raiders is pretty much a gimme game. Those are the games where you're supposed to win those games. Either the team's just not good, they're going through a lot, you have the better roster, you're supposed to win those games. The problem is, though, the Browns have 20 plus people on the COVID list, and important people like quarterback Baker Mayfield, backup quarterback Case Keenum. I think Jarvis Landry might be on it. So the NFL then comes out and pretty much says they're tweaking their mandate, or they're tweaking their protocols as far as, I guess they weren't really testing people as much that had the vaccine, but as we're seeing, Omicron, I believe, is called the new variant of the coronavirus, and players just getting taken out left and right. This is like we need to start testing everybody. The problem is the NFL has already come out and said they're not trying to reschedule games. It doesn't, if I understand that quote unquote it's a competitive advantage, seeing as though most of the players on Cleveland can't really play due to COVID. But the NFL has already come out and said that they're not really trying, and they have had no talks in moving games, especially this late in the season. They added a week, week 17 or week 18, week 17, because, people were able to come in, and if they had to move some schedule around or move the schedule around due to COVID, that they'll have an extra week to work with. But when it's week 15, that's going to be kind of hard to do. And Baker Mayfield came out and said stuff. People on a lot of sports networks have said something, and I understand both sides. I understand both sides as far as why the NFL has not or will not rescheduled games and why players are upset. First and foremost, the Browns, they can't afford to lose this game. And when you're bringing Nick Mullen, who was a third string quarterback, like, come on now. Now, and I mean, Darren Waller's out for the Raiders, it still ain't no gimme. The Raiders aren't really good this year, but you can't really afford to lose these games, and you're pretty much going, in fact, you're going at like less than full strength. In fact, a lot less than full strength. So I understand that. And I also understand this is a money thing. This is a money thing. The league The league is not trying to lose money rescheduling these games. So, and I'm not caping for the league. I'm just saying that just is what it is. I think Rob Mankiewicz, I think his name is. I think he said it on ESPN. It's a money thing. It's a money thing. So anybody, I mean, it's a money thing. So, if I were the NFL, I mean, it's like you're towing the line here, man. It's like either you're going to play these games, and you remember last season when it was the Steelers and Ravens, how their game kept getting canceled because the Ravens were just getting swamped by COVID, and they end up playing like on a Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon or something. The game, I think that was supposed to be on Thanksgiving, I think. Like, and how I think RG3 had to start that game. Like, how bad of a product was put on the field. That hurts more than rescheduling a game and coming back when, even though players expect it to be, but again, I understand. It's tough, man. It's really tough because again, you want to put the best product out in the field. I mean, when the product is not good or tainted or diluted or people are out, important people out, you're going to lose money, you're going to lose fans, but you're going to lose more money. And I don't see how you reschedule, seeing as though we're in week 15. It'd be different if at least one of the teams didn't have a bye week yet. This is week 15. So it's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough, but that's what it is. And same for Washington. Washington is the last. Not only is Washington the last team or the last wild card team, at least as we speak, in the NFC, but they're going against an NFC rival, which is the Eagles. So, and when you have what's his name, Tyler Heineke, when Taylor Heineke, I'm sorry, when Taylor Heineke's out, when Kyle Allen's out, like it's tough. So I get it, man. And it's not just the NFL, NBA. I mean, Russell Westbrook just went into protocol. James Harden's in protocol. In fact, the Nets just had to play with like 8 people because everyone, like, they didn't have anybody else available either due to injury or we're in safety protocol. So it's all I'm saying, man, is just be safe. Just be safe. Be careful. I understand it's tough, especially for athletes when you're in a contact sport or when you're playing against people and you don't, or when you're around people and you don't know what they're doing on their free time, or you can't see the virus that is COVID until somebody has it. I just want everyone to be safe. Remain social distant. Stay maxed up. Just be safe, man. Just be safe, because trust and believe, if no week told you or showed you that COVID is still here, hopefully it was this week. The NHL is canceling games. So canceling and rescheduling. And I think that the Blackhawks, I believe, or one of the teams in the NHL, just came out and said that they're going to go back to 50% capacity as far as fans. And I think there was one team that had maybe 2 days ago that played with no fans because of how the virus is spreading. And a lot of people, one of the biggest fears for health people is the holidays. You have people coming in, you have family get together. I mean, we just had Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? So it's just be safe, be careful. It's tough, and it's starting to look eerily similar. The difference between now and, of course, the beginning is that there was, I think the reason why, in fact, one of the biggest reasons why I know they're not rescheduling these games and canceling these games as far as the NBA and, hell, the Bulls are in complete lockdown. Their games are getting postponed, but like for the NFL, the reason why those games aren't really being canceled like that is because in the beginning of the pandemic there was no vaccine, so it's like you really had no choice. A lot of these, I mean, now you actually have the option of a vaccine, and whether you take it or not, it's up to you. But you know, you get what you get. So I'm not saying that to say like it is what it is. If you get it, I don't want anyone to get the virus. So I just hope everyone stays safe. And again, if there was any week to show you that the pandemic is still roaring, it is this week. So, but let's move forward. So on Thursday, not only did we see a very important game in the AFC, but we saw a great game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. I said last week that the league is going to look drastically different in probably 3 to 4 years. You know, we don't know the status of Aaron Rodgers, even though he's playing at a high level. We don't know how long he's going to last. Tom Brady, you know, the GOAT, we don't know how long he's going to last. A lot of these legends, a lot of these vets, a lot of these players that we've known for the longest may be on different teams, may not be here, but the league is going to look a lot different as far as who's at the top of the league. And I think that two quarterbacks that we saw on on Thursday, which is Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the LA Chargers, are going to be at the top of this list, man. And it was a great game. You see, this game meant one of the reasons why this was a big game, because it meant a lot to both teams. One, the Chargers, they're pretty much fighting for a playoff spot right now. And that's how competitive the AFC is. They're 8-6 at this point after the loss, but they're 8-6 and they're fighting. They're still fighting for a playoff spot. Kansas City Chiefs, we buried them in the beginning, and rightfully so. They were struggling. I mean, Patrick Mahomes didn't look good. The defense was god awful. It just didn't look good at all, and people were killing them, and rightfully so. But they have turned the ship. I think they won like 7 straight. Or like maybe 8 straight, and they you know, they're looking good. And this is the last team. Like, there's something to be said about, if you look at the playoffs and you look at the recent Super Bowl champions, every single one of them were surging before the playoffs. Now, not saying that they won their last game before they got to the playoffs, but most of them were red hot going to the playoffs. And I'm not saying that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, but what I am saying is they're the last team, at least at this point, that you want to play in, or, you know, in the playoffs, because they're looking like the Chiefs of old. Now, no, they're not as explosive as they have been the last few years, and they are still dealing with players. I think Chris Jones and Melvin Ingram look incredible together, but I think Chris Jones is in the safety protocol, so he did not play on Thursday, I don't believe. But it's the last team that you want to face right now are the Kansas City Chiefs, because they're rolling. Patrick Mahomes looked good. Travis Kelce had a career night. Travis Kelce, he 10 receptions for 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 12 receptions for 148 yards and a touchdown. Like, those are starting to look like the numbers that we're accustomed to seeing when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, 31 for 47, 410 yards. He did have an interception in the game, but he had 3 touchdowns. Like, it's the Chiefs are on a roll. The Chiefs are starting to look like the Chiefs of old, and that does not spell well for anybody, especially going into the playoffs. And the Chargers look good too. Don't get me wrong. The Chargers dealt with a bunch of injuries. First of all, I hope that Donald Perlman, you know, he went out with an injury. It looked bad. I hope that he's doing okay. I hope that he's recovering. They did say he was moving at the hospital, so it looked bad. But Josh Allen looked good too, man. Josh Allen, 22 for 38, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception. They lost in overtime. It was a good game, and it was a good game because both teams were playing for something. Both teams. This was important for both teams. If you're the Chiefs, you don't want to lose a game and then you don't want to lose a game and continue and drop in the playoff position because you're still. I mean, even though they would have been 9-5, they'll still be fighting for a playoff spot, and they're 10-4 right now. And then for the Chargers, again, you're fighting for a playoff spot, so it's tough. I mean, at this point right now, if you look at the playoff picture, the Chargers are the 15 out of 7. Now the Kansas City Chiefs rose. Now they're the number 1 in the AFC West and number 1 in the AFC. But it's tough. And when you have another thing is you're looking around you're looking at the NFC, and this is a huge game for both teams because if you look around, the Colts have a tough game against the Patriots, who is number 2 in the AFC. So the number 6 seed can change. We know what's happening with the Ravens and all these injuries, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to even play. Tennessee Titans are kind of not looking good. So that was an important game, and they both delivered, man. I think that I know the Kansas City Chiefs is not a team that you really want to see in the playoffs, any team. And honestly, the Chargers aren't either, just because of how good how good Justin Herbert's playing. And the final score on Thursday was 34-28. They went into overtime. Again, Travis Kelce had 2 incredible catch and run for a touchdown scores. It was a good game. It was a really good game, and it was a good game. It was a good game. So, let's move on and talk about probably the story that got the most traction this week, and that was Urban Meyer's getting fired. I think Marcus Spears said it best. Now, this isn't his original tweet, of course, or original statement, but Marcus Spears said it this week. When somebody really shows you who they are, you have to believe them. First and foremost, what a lot of coaches don't understand. In fact, a lot of coaches find success in one place or another. Meaning, a lot of coaches either find success in the NFL or find success in college. Very rarely do you see it in both. Can it happen? Yes. Has it happened? Yes. I'm not saying that it's impossible. What I'm saying is it is very rare to find a very successful coach in the NFL, and they also were or are successful in college, because it's a different mindset approaching both of these places. It's a different mindset approaching college and how you speak to the athletes, how you recruit, how you coach. There's a lot of things that you can't do in college that you can do in the NFL. Vice versa, there's a lot of things that you can do in the NFL that you just can't do in college. And a lot of coaches don't understand that. A lot of coaches don't understand, or I'm not going to say don't understand. A lot of coaches underestimate the fact that just because you have success in one spot or one area or one field doesn't mean that success is going to carry over to the next. Also, and I said this before, and I will say it again. There is a way to talk to people. There is a way to conduct yourself. There is a way to coach. And some people think just because they've won in certain areas or just because they've won in one field means that they can just be, for lack of a better term, excuse my language, they can just be an asshole to everyone. You see, Urban Meyer is a perfect example of if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Look at every place he's been and how it's ended outside of the whole health scares. Look at in Florida. I think they said Florida, he had the most penalized team like ever. I think like so many people were arrested under his coaching tutelage. Or we go to Ohio State. We know about Ohio State and Ezekiel Elliott and other things. Like, if somebody shows you who you are, prove it. I mean, we had to know. Now, I don't think it's surprising to anybody that Urban Meyer was fired. I said he was going to get fired. I thought he was going to get fired at the end of the season because it's week 15. They're not playing for anything. There's 2 weeks left. I thought he was going to. I knew he was going to get fired. You can go back and listen to the last episode. I knew he was going to get fired. I just didn't know. I didn't think he was going to get fired this soon. Also, and when I say this soon, I meant this week. I thought I was going to get probably the end of the season. I also didn't think that Urban Meyer's firing was going to come at like 12 o'clock midnight. You see, the writing was on the wall day one. When you hire an assistant coach who has a history and a background of being racist. And then a lot of people talk about the whole Ohio bar thing, the chop house, I believe it's called, the where his hands were and the girl, dancing on his lap. A lot of people want to talk about that, and rightfully so. It's a bad look. But not enough people are talking about the fact that he did not go home on the team plane after a loss, by the way. Coaches don't do that. And then we know about, the whole report that's coming out saying, information being leaked, and he coming on the thing saying, I'm gonna fire the rat who's leaking information. You don't say that as a coach, bro. Or the fact that after the whole Ohio incident, he didn't even want to address his team or the media. You see, because people are successful in one area, they think that they are above a lot of people. And people can say, "Oh no, that's not true," but you can really see about how they treat people. And then the firing pretty much came a day after a former kicker talking about, he kicked him. He kicked a kicker in practice. Oh, and he benched James Robinson after one fumble in his career. I think because Urban Meyer was so successful and is so successful in college, or was so successful, in college, that I think that there's always going to be an opening for him in college. I think that there's going to be, it's if he wanted to. Now he can say, health problems and everything, but I think that there's always going to be a position and an opening for him in college. I mean, he won in Florida, he won in Ohio State. He's Urban Meyer. But I do think that this has permanently affected his job status for the NFL. I don't think Urban Myers has demonstrated at every turn how not to be a head coach in the NFL. Or what not to do, how not to conduct yourself as a head coach in the NFL. And I think, again, there's ways that you can talk to players that's in college that are on scholarship or fighting for a scholarship that you recruited or your team recruited. There's a way that you can speak to them because they're younger. You're making more money than them. Now, the whole NIL thing has changed a little bit, but you're making more money than them. They're looking to you to get them to the next level, as in the NFL. There's a way that you can talk to them, and they're just gonna let it go. Oh, it's coach being coach. When you're dealing with people that one make more money than you, that ish ain't gonna fly, bro. There ain't no way that you talking to Aaron Donald the same way that you're talking to a freshman in college. There's no way that you're talking to Devontae Adams the same way that you're talking to a sophomore in college. There's no way you're talking to Aaron Rodgers the way that you're talking to a sophomore in college. This is not going to happen. No. Urban Meyers, I'm not going to call him a terrible person because I don't know the dude. But the record is there. It has shown that every single place he's been to has had incidents that aren't too favorable in his liking. Every single place. Every single place. Also, in college, winning, well, everywhere. It's not just college, because I'm not going to hold you. Winning everywhere masks a lot of off the field issues. We talk about this a lot when we talk about players. One of the, a big one is Antonio Brown. A lot of people were willing to continue to give him second chances, and people have. I mean, he's with the Blxst now. He continued to get second chances because of how productive he was and is on the field. Terrell Owens. Now, he didn't have any, off the field incidents, but it was pretty much legendary that he was a headache in the locker room. But because he was so talented, he continued to get shots, and he was great on the field. Don't get me wrong. Winning masks a lot of front offices, a lot of GMs, a lot of owners will look the other way if you're winning. The problem with Urban Meyer is he wasn't winning. You see, a lot of this was happening. I'm sure a lot of this was happening. I mean, you think that this is the first time that Urban Meyer's pretty much second guessed and berated his coaching staff, talking about which one of y'all, how many of y'all are winners? Show me on your resume where you're a winner. You think that that's the first time he's ever done that? I doubt it. I'm almost sure that's the first time he's done that with a losing record. So, of course, it gets amplified a lot more. And I'm not saying that to say that it's right or, people are taken out of context. I'm saying that it's wrong regardless. I mean, hell, you hired this coaching staff. So how do you hire this coaching staff, yet you're berating them? Or challenging their, knowledge or whatever. You think that's the first time he did that? No. I promise you that's the first time he did that with a losing record. Again, all this stuff can fly people will let this stuff fly if you're winning. Hell, look at you think the New England Patriots would tolerate all this stuff that Bill Belichick comes with, the grouchiness and stuff, if he wasn't a good coach? Or if he didn't have all the Super Bowl rings on his fingers, or if he wasn't winning? You think that the Patriots would tolerate all that? You think that the Alabama would tolerate all this Nick Saban stuff if he wasn't such a good coach? And all the disgruntled and mean grandpa comments that he'd be giving to the media. You think that they take that if he wasn't winning and he wasn't probably the greatest college football coach ever? You think that the Spurs would take all this, grumpy stuff that they get from Greg Popovich if he wasn't arguably the greatest basketball coach ever? What do all of them have in common outside of Urban Meyer? They're winners, or they're on winning franchises. Urban Meyer already stepped into a poor situation because you're stepping in. Well, I will say this. You're stepping into a poor situation because the Jaguars have no history of being good. It is a good situation because you have Trevor Lawrence, but you didn't even develop Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has looked as bad in week 14 than he did in week 1. It's bad enough when you draft a running back in the first round and you're trying to use him as a wide receiver, and he's never played wide receiver ever. Look, man, I'm not here to bash on Urban, but what I will say that the writing was on the wall day one. Day one, getting the job and you hire a racist dude or a guy that has a history of racial profiling, two players in his program, it's, and again, because of the success that Urban Meyer has had in college, there's no doubt in my mind if he wanted to coach again in college, he could. That tyrant mentality can work in college because you're having kids that's depending on you, and kids are trying to do anything to get in the NFL. But that's not going to work. That's not always going to work against people in the NFL, especially when it's not producing wins. So, again, the writing was on the wall. So, and again, I think that, like I said, he can get a job again in college, but I think that his chances of getting an NFL job or at least a head coaching job is done. And honestly, Urban Meyer doesn't seem like the type of person that would want to take an assistant coach job. So I think that his days in the NFL are done. Again, he put on a clinic of how not to do the job. A clinic. From day one, like from the start. How not to do the job. And, now he's out. So let's move forward. So week 15 is here, and I'm going to give my predictions on the games. COVID played, like I said before in the opening statement, COVID is playing a huge part in, this week. So we have two Saturday games. The first one is the Raiders at Browns. We just talked about COVID is wreaking havoc with the Browns. The Browns do need this win. I will give you that. The Browns need this win, and there are some key players on the defense that are still playing, like Myles Garrett. However, the Raiders. The Raiders. When you hear that you're playing a team that's on their third string quarterback, that's supposed to be open season for you. Like, you're supposed to go. And even though the Raiders are still in the bubble too, on the hunt, so I have the Raiders winning that just because of all the COVID stuff that's happening with the Browns. Not to mention you have Nick Mullen is starting. Like, if the Raiders can't beat Nick Mullen and the depleted Browns, there's no hope for them, like, at all. So I have the Raiders winning that one. Even though it is at Cleveland, I have the Raiders winning that one. Patriots at Colts. I have the Colts. I know Patriots are red hot right now, but so are the Colts. Jonathan Taylor is still running wild. Carson Wentz. We haven't talked about Carson Wentz in a while, and that is a good thing. That means he's doing something right. If we're really talking about Carson Wentz a lot, usually he's doing something poor. And I think that the Colts are playing are really well. They're playing really good defense. Their defense has been incredible the last few weeks. They're pretty good. They're playing good. And they should have beat the Bucs, but they're playing well. So I know the Patriots, they're on a road too. They're second in the AFC. However, I think that the way to beat the Patriots is make Mac Jones throw the ball. Make him throw the ball. Not saying that he can't throw, but the Patriots' run game and defense is their huge strong points, and their huge weak points is Mac Jones. Not saying Mac Jones is terrible, but Mac Jones is is not the strength of their team right now. So I think the Colts defense is going to have to make the Patriots beat them in the air. And I think that if they can do that, I got the Colts winning this one. Sunday, you have Cowboys at Giants. I have the Cowboys. Even though Dak Prescott has not been playing well, the Giants suck. The Giants are horrible, and I got Dallas. Tennessee at Jaguars. I have Tennessee. I think this has been a very tumultuous week for the Jaguars, and Tennessee to me is just better, even though they're both 2-11. Tennessee is better, and I mean, it's pretty much picking which enemy do you like the least or like the most. Like I don't know. They're not. I'm not saying they're my enemy, but they're both bad teams. But I have the Texans. Titans at Steelers. I have the Titans. Even though the Steelers are at home, it's hard for me to trust the Steelers. There's a lot of games where they come out lethargic, and then at the end they try to pick it up. Same thing that happened against the Vikings. I don't trust Big Ben at this moment. I don't trust Big Ben. I don't trust Claypool. I don't trust the offensive line. I don't trust a lot with the Steelers. And I think the Titans kind of the Steelers need this game more as far as getting in the playoffs. But I think the Titans are playing better right now, even though they're both not playing great. I got the Titans. I still don't trust the Steelers. So Jets at Dolphins. I got the Dolphins. I mean, just won 3 games, and Dolphins won 6. And the Dolphins are actually playing a lot better right now. Tua's playing well. The defense is looking like it was last year. I got the Dolphins. Washington at Eagles. I got the Eagles. I mean, Washington, Taylor Heineke's out. Kyle Allen's out, and they have like 20-something people on COVID as well, just like Cleveland. So it would be hypocritical of me to say Cleveland really has no shot of winning. I'm not going to say has no shot, but Cleveland's not going to win. And even though the Washington is playing the Eagles, which is, lesser of the teams between them and the Raiders, but Washington is too depleted. Not to mention, even without COVID, they're depleted on both sides of the ball. So I have, which is big too, because I mean Washington needs the win, but I have the Eagles winning that. Cardinals at Lions. Okay. Cardinals. Panthers at Bills. I have the Bills. I do think that the Panthers at this point are trying to play spoiler. Their offense, I think last week, they did bench Cam Newton again, but I think it was kind of an early bench. I think it was just one interception, but I have the Bills. I don't really trust the Panthers. I think the Panthers are kind of they're in flux right now. Is exactly what they want to do. So I have the Bills. Bengals at Broncos. I have the Bengals. The Broncos, don't let it fool you. Last week was a very emotional week, especially with the news with Demaryius Thomas. But now you got a young gun coming in Joe Burrow, and you got a young team coming. Yeah, let's not let it fool you, bro. It's the Bengals. Falcons at 49ers. I have the 49ers. The 49ers need this game a lot more than the Falcons, and the 49ers are better than the Falcons, even though the 49ers have, they have underachieved this year. I still have the 49ers. I mean, they're still better than the Falcons. Seahawks at Rams. The Rams showed me a lot against the Cardinals, and I think the Rams are starting to pick it up and play better. Not to mention the Seahawks are kind of decimated too. I mean, Tyler Lockett's out with COVID or in safety protocol, as well as Collins. And I think that's huge because that's the Seahawks number one, even though they have DK Metcalf. That's the Seahawks number one receiver in Tyler Lockett. So I have the Rams winning that one. Green Bay at Ravens. This game would be a lot better if Lamar Jackson may or may not play. We still don't know. And I think that this team, the Ravens are just too, Lamar Jackson hasn't practiced all week. The Ravens are just too decimated at this point. And you're going against the number one team in the NFC, that is the Packers. A healthy Aaron Rodgers, a possibly unhealthy Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go with the Packers every time. Saints at Bucks. I got the Bucks. It's the Saints. The Saints are just, they do have Alvin Kamara, and I do think Alvin Kamara is going to have a big day, but it's the Bucks. And Monday Night Football, Vikings at Bears. I got the Vikings. I just think I trust Kirk Cousins at this point of his career more than I trust Justin Fields. Even though Justin Fields ain't no slouch, but and we know about the turbulence that the Bears have had this year. I got the Vikings winning that. So those are my predictions. What do you guys think? There's a game happening this afternoon at 4:30. So, what do you guys think? Who is your team playing, and who is your team? What game do you think is going to be the best game? So, just let me know. Let's move forward. So we're at a weird time. Not weird. We're not weird. We're at a unique time. A unique time in the NBA. Usually, we talk. I mean, we're at MVP talk. We're pretty much almost halfway into the season, and of course now MVP talk is coming. And there are a lot of players that can be considered MVPs. Whether we're talking about LeBron James, whether we're talking about Jimmy Butler has been up there. There's a lot of people that can be MVPs, and they've been playing really well. And this is the first year that there's a clear-cut number one MVP at this point. Yet, and Zach Lowe said it best. Yet he's not on many people's radar, and that's Nikola Jokic. Now, I love me some Steph Curry. I love me some Kevin Durant. I think those they're fighting for MVP as well. I think, between Jokic, Durant, and Steph, that's 1, 2, and 3. Not in that order, but I do think that Nikola Jokic, at least if you look at the numbers, you look at the impact, you look at the people that he's playing with, because there's a lot of, Michael Porter Jr. is out. Jamal Murray's still out. He's not playing with much. Yet he's still putting up, I think he's averaging like 26 and 14 with like the highest PER in like league history at this point. Now, I understand basketball is a flashy game. I get that. I understand that Steph Curry puts on a beautiful game. And not to mention, he just broke the 3-point record. So shouts out to him again. I understand that Kevin Durant is going crazy. I think he's averaging like 33 or 34 points the last 8 or 9 games. Kevin Durant is a monster. He just had a 51-point game, I think, last week. That man is that's mama, there goes that man. But I don't know if it's because the league's not trying to do another foreign the league's not really trying to do another foreign back-to-back MVP, which they did with Giannis, or if there was so much flack that they got last year for having Nikola Jokic as the MVP, that they're just not trying to do that again. But even if he doesn't win, I do think Nikola Jokic needs to be at least what I'm hearing. What they're trying to paint this as is this is a 2-person race, and it's not. This is a clear-cut number one at this point, which is Nikola Jokic, and 2 people in Kevin Durant and Steph Curry that's trying to get to number one. They're pretty much fighting for second right now. Am I saying that Nikola Jokic will win the MVP? No. Am I saying that Nikola Jokic can be playing this great and Steph Curry or Kevin Durant can catch him? They could. But in my opinion, the league MVP is kind of it's kind of funny when a lot of people are saying it's a 2-man race when it's really not. It's Nikola Jokic. I'm not saying that in totality he's the best player, but he has been playing the best this year. It's just, I don't know, a lot of people don't watch Nuggets games. It is kind of hard watching Denver, especially on the East Coast. Their games usually start at 10:30 over here. But I don't know if not a lot of people are interested. But Nikola Jokic is doing more with less. And I understand that's tough to say when you see Kevin Durant and James Harden's now out with safety protocol. Kyrie Irving, we don't know about his future in Brooklyn. Steph Curry, even though they're the number 1 or 2 seed in the West, and Klay Thompson and James Wiseman hasn't played, but Nikola Jokic has been hooping. And I think that it is a 3-man race. And honestly, if you ask me right now, Nikola Jokic should win MVP. I don't think he will, because I think that's when popularity kind of sets in, which isn't right. But At least at this point. Now, things can happen towards the end of the season, but I do think at this point I would give it to Nikola Jokic. Because the numbers that he's putting up is crazy. Do I think Nikola Jokic in totality is better than Steph? No. Do I think he's better than KD? No. Do I think he's better than a lot of people? No. But do I think that he's played the best this year? Yes, hands down. And for that, I would give him MVP. So, moving forward. And lastly, I want to shout out Travis Hunter. He's the number two overall player in the nation. And he picked an HBCU. First time this has ever happened. I think first time an HBCU has ever gotten like a 5-star athlete or a 5-star athlete has picked the HBCU over a Power 5 conference. Jacksonville State, that is, of course, coached by Deion Sanders. That is... They were able to get him over like Georgia and Florida State. Here's the thing, and I've said this before. It's not what I think it is, and I think because athletes, at least at this point, in society and technology, athletes have their own platform. A lot of athletes come into college more famous in the college. I mean, look at Mikey Williams. Look at Mikey. Mikey, he's sensational. It doesn't really matter where he goes. He will be more than likely bigger than the university because that's just how Mikey is. We know Chet Holcomb and Gonzaga. We know the following that he had going into college. Imani Bates. Players these days, because of the boom, of course, of social media, they don't really need college for exposure anymore. And I'm not saying that to down any school. What I'm saying is the biggest reason, in my opinion, that a lot of kids or a lot of athletes, a lot of students choose Power 5 schools or PWIs over HBCUs because of resources. Hell, you just heard Master P took his son out of a HBCU because of the resources. It didn't have the resources that could hold or that was adequate enough to keep his son pretty much. And it's not just a Master P being picky thing, but I went to an HBCU. Now, granted, it was a smaller HBCU than like the North Carolina A&T or Howard or Florida A&M. But I went to an HBCU, and there's a lot of things that a lot of HBCU students experience that PWIs don't, and that's due to lack of funding. I mean, medical, like there's a lot of HBCU. There's some HBCU basketball sport programs that don't have athletic trainers. There's a lot of HBCUs that don't have adequate locker rooms, that don't have working showers in the locker rooms, that don't have adequate dorms because they can't afford it. It's just, they don't have the proper funding for it. And when you're trying to attract a 5-star athlete that's already that is one of the highly touted athletes, it's going to be hard when you have a school like Clemson, like Alabama, and you see the videos of their locker room. Kids weren't making no money, but their locker room was state of the art. Their facilities are state of the art. Yet your HBCUs are pretty much, trying to scrape for pennies. And I'm not saying that to say I'm not saying that to disrespect HBCUs. I love going to HBCU. I'm saying that to say we need to find more funding for HBCUs. So more people like Travis Hunter more top 5 and top of the nation athletes will go to the HBCUs. I love what Travis Hunter did. Not only did Travis Hunter bet on himself, but he bet his future on an HBCU program and a black coach in Deion Sanders. We know about the success that Jacksonville State's having, but a lot of athletes he's the first one. until HBCUs get more funding, and that's not only HBCUs, that's whoever's giving the funding out. But until they're able to house and hold, because there's a lot that comes with 5-star athletes. I talked about this before when I think McCurr chose Howard, I think it was. And I said, yo, the reason why this doesn't happen a lot is because imagine Zion Williamson going to Howard University. Right? We know the fanfare and the hysteria that came with Zion Williamson. I mean, he set Duke, the University of Duke, to blaze. Like he was just all that in the bag. Now he was with R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, but it was the Zion show. Imagine that at Howard, the same Howard that just got over, I believe, dealing with students not having adequate dorms, places to stay, having to stay in tents. Imagine that same school housing Zion Williamson. And the thing is, Howard, it happens everywhere, or not every, but it happens at a lot of HBCUs because they can't afford, they don't have adequate funding. They don't have the same funding that a lot of PWIs have, and because of that, athletes look at that and say, I'm not going, bro. So I commend Travis Hunter. I think that people like Travis Hunter, people like, I think his name is McCurr, are trendsetters. I think that there's going to be more people with the growth of HBCU or the growth of the popularity of HBCUs. It only takes one, man. This is the nation's, I think, number 2 overall player, number 1 cornerback, I believe, going to an HBCU. It only takes one, and I'm sure more people are going to follow suit. So I love what he did, man. Shouts out to Travis Hunter, man. Shouts out to him, and shouts out to every athlete, whether you're 5-star, 2-star, 1-star, 3-star. Every athlete that puts their faith in the HBCU and bets on themselves. I commend y'all, man. I really do. And there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate y'all. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, long sleeve, hoodie, sweater, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. I will say it's getting cold out there because it's definitely cold out there. But I don't know, man. The weather is kind of getting infrequent. So get yourself a shirt and get yourself a hoodie or a sweater. Hey, man. Best of both worlds, man. The link is in the description. Also, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.